Well, I will say, as we look ahead, a very, very straightforward forecast, but there are some changes taking place which are relevant given what Manny has talked about here. Looking back here, at least at the last week and so forth, the pattern of very, very localized and very, very spotty rain continued across the state. The upper left here, we have precipitation totals or accumulations here for the last week. In some cases more than 2 inches. There are a few spots down in the southeastern part of the lower peninsula that did see quite a bit of activity here, especially over the last few days. Contrast that with, in some cases, less than 1/10 of an inch in the northern part of the state. But again, I think if we characterize this very, very spotty rainfall. So some, depending on where you were, some areas got meaningful rainfall, others did not. And were missed, and of course that continues a drier than normal pattern in many places back to the middle of July. Temperature-wise, the past week in the upper right here range from a couple degrees warmer than normal in the southern lower to a couple degrees below the normals as you go north and west. And this again follows up on what Manny talked about, our degree day totals, base 50 here. This one starting with the totals during or at the beginning of May. If we look at those totals right now, those range from at or just a little bit ahead of normal in the far southern part of the state to significantly behind normal as we go north, especially into the northern lower and into the upper peninsula. Their totals still lag considerably behind where they typically are at this time of the year. So that hasn't changed that much. And again, given the week of weather that we had, not a whole lot of changes. One last thing about the rainfall and the lack of rainfall here over the last several weeks. The vegetation response to this, and this is a product here you're looking at that looks down with satellite at leaf temperatures relative to normal. And you can see that two major areas here in Michigan, one from south central up into portions of the Saginaw Bay Thumb area in lower Michigan, and then the far northern lower and portions of especially the eastern upper peninsula here are showing symptoms of lack of water, moisture stress, and that's indicated here by this brown and orange color. On the left, just for contrast, this goes back to the middle of July when we were still coming again off of one of the wettest springs on record, and you can see lots of blue color here, but there's been a big change in just a few weeks, and that pattern essentially has continued at many locations. I only am going to show one short-term forecast map today because there really is no need to do more than that. It's a very straightforward forecast. This is looking actually at the forecast for tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. Before that, I would say that we still have some scattered showers occurring down in the far southeastern part of the state. That's the radar pic here you've got in the inset or down here in the lower left. Those are on their way out though, and over the next couple of hours those will move out of the state. And this is in response to a big area of Canadian origin high pressure, and that's what you see on the weather forecast map here over central Ontario. This is an air mass which is probably more typical of early fall than of late summer. And if you're in the northern part of the state, you've already experienced or had a day or even a little bit longer in this air mass. Much cooler and drier air moving into the state as we speak. Again, especially the big change is going to be noticeable in the southern part of the state. The northern part of the state has already been in this air mass. But as I mentioned, only one map because this air mass is going to be with us for several days. And as it is, we can expect temperatures several degrees below the normal, highs generally only in the 70s, and lows in the 40s and 50s. The coolest weather with this probably will take place on Friday, tomorrow, and on Saturday, and then we'll see a little bit of moderation by Sunday. I've also had no mention other than what's happening right now of rainfall. With the high pressure, virtually no rainfall expected. There might be a few sprinkles here and there, but basically certainly no significant rainfall. The next chance for anything in terms of significant precip probably coming on Monday into Tuesday of next week, and I think statewide that's the best chance that we have. But right now we're looking at a fair, cool, and dry several days with, again, with a moderation as we get to the end of the weekend into early next week. In terms of precipitation potential, what's projected over the next week? Well, the numbers range here from more than 3/4 of an inch in northern and far western parts of the state to less than half, maybe even less than 1/4 of an inch in eastern portions of the state. And I would note, again, given what you just saw or heard here regarding our short-term forecast, almost all of this precipitation you see here would be in that Monday, Tuesday of next week time frame. So again, not a lot of chances for precipitation during the upcoming week with this type of a pattern. Which brings us into the medium range, because there are definitely some changes and trends that are relevant to what Manny's talked about, and given this very challenging growing season with weather, we do have the forecast guidance has been very consistent over the last several days. And the jet stream pattern here, which you see on the left, with the suggested formation of a big troughing feature over the central part of the U.S., actually central part of North America, which brings northwesterly flow. Oops, I went a little bit too fast here for myself. But basically, meteorologically, that means one thing, and that we're going to see more cool air from Canada move into the lower 48 and certainly into Michigan. On the 6 to 10 day outlook here, the latest version of this from yesterday afternoon, mean temperatures in the upper right here, you can see that Michigan they have Michigan at least on the boundary of this cooler air, with the coolest temperatures and coolest weather confined to our west. I think I would have probably drawn that a little bit closer to Michigan. Given this upper air pattern, that usually means cooler weather for us. It also interestingly has above normal precipitation totals. Personally, I would have probably not put the green so much in there for the Great Lakes region. I think will probably be normal at best. There will be more chances for precipitation with this pattern, but it's a little harder to get the moisture up here with that upper air pattern. So, but the big news is, again, that with this troughing feature, there will be cooler air moving into the Midwest. We've had several different questions of people that have seen this forecast and asking about frost and freezing temperature potential. Right now, I would say no. Even in portions of the northern Great Plains, it's unlikely. But the other note here is, as we move several weeks into the future, into September, this is the type of upper air pattern that one would typically associate with those first frost or first freezing temperature events. I don't think that this is one of those, but again, it is similar to what we would not want to see here a few weeks down the road. In the 8 to 14 day time frame, which takes us into the first few days of September, you can see the upper air pattern here again, very consistent with the 6 to 10 day. The center of the trough is right over the Great Lakes, and you can see that they've also moved the mean temperature anomalies, the cooler than normal anomalies, all the way into Michigan and the Great Lakes region. They've also backed off a little bit on the precipitation. This is what I would have expected probably in the 6 to 10 day outlook as well. But I think the big news is, again, that we are going to be seeing cooler than normal conditions. And I mentioned some low 40 possibly temperatures in the northern part of the state here over the next few days. I don't see a frost threat in Michigan, particularly with this scenario. However, I think what is important about it is that late August and early September, frequently we pick up significant heat accumulation, degree day accumulation, and again, given this outlook, we're losing a little bit of that potential that we really would like to have. I think that's the biggest impact from this particular scenario. Now, we do have some new long lead outlooks to share. These are brand new. They're new as of last Thursday, and they are consistent with forecasts from the previous couple of months, and they call both for September and the fall, September through November timeframe. They both call for normal or above normal or warmer than normal mean temperatures. Precipitation, most of the state is in this EC or equal chances category, really with no forecast direction, maybe edging towards wetter than normal as you move west. You can see in a fairly large area in both the September and the September through November outlooks for the northern plains and even portions of the northwestern Corn Belt. Above normal precipitation is forecast there. So I think the bottom line there is that The upper air changes that we're seeing here over the next 1 to 2 weeks, at least right now the guidance is suggesting that those will be temporary, and that probably by the middle of September we would move back into a different upper air pattern that would be warmer than what is being forecast here for the short term. So in summary here, fair, cool, and dry, a little bit of a taste of early fall here, certainly over the next several days with some moderation by the end of the weekend. Next chance for rain not coming, significant rain until the early part of next week. And then as we just talked about, it does look cool, cooler than normal here for the end of the month and into early September with that big troughing feature. But further than that, further out, the new outlooks still do suggest a warmer than normal fall. One piece of additional information here, we've had a number of questions in the state climatologist's office here about when to expect first freeze. Manny had quite a bit of material on this. Just to follow up, we're working, and it was almost finished. The numbers of graphics you're seeing here were just finished yesterday afternoon, but we are working on a story that will be loaded on the MSU Extension site, basically looking at the latest data that we have and remembering that it's very, very difficult to forecast with any accuracy this first killing or freeze or the first freeze of the fall, the first 32 degrees. But I'm showing you here an example of the type of information that we're putting together. This is the climatology for the first occurrence of 28 degrees Fahrenheit, which Manny described here earlier, and its impacts in the fall season. And I've got 3 different figures here. One is the middle one here is probably the most of interest. This is basically the normal date that occurs in the state of Michigan, the 50th percentile or median. And we looked at a period here from 1981 through last year, through 2018. We looked at this at 53 different sites across the state. And you can see those here outlined in the middle. But basically that date, that normal date here ranges from the very end of September through the first few days of November. So about a 6-week range across the state for the normal. We've also have some additional statistics here, including the 10th percentile. That's the date at which we would see every 10th year a day earlier than that. So the earliest this can occur in 10% of the years, that ranges here, you can see from the second week of September in far northern, some interior northern parts of the state, to the third week of October in the far southeast. And you can see from the maps here that the longest, or at least the longest delay in this, or the latest day, which occurs in Michigan, tends to be across the southeastern part of the state. Finally, then, the 90th percentile here, this is the date at which 9 of 10 of these first freeze events occur, at least by climatology. And again, given that we can't forecast this very well, these statistics, I think, are the best information that we have. I do also have, if you might be able to see in the far bottom, an example here from Lansing. I picked out some dates, and you can see that the 50th percentile or median date for Lansing, and I think Manny showed a graphic of this for East Lansing, very, very close, but that 50th percentile is the 18th of October, again, first 28, but in 1 out of 10 years, it occurs as early as the 5th of October, and 1 out of 10 years, it occurs as late as the 14th. So you've got almost a 5-week difference there from about the earliest you would expect and the latest you would expect. But again, for most of the state, this event occurs typically during the month of October into the first part of November. And with that, a reminder that MSU Extension has a number of late planting or delayed planting resources available on the web. This will be what you've just seen when we get that finished up. That hopefully will be on there within the next week. And a reminder, just one more, if you can, please go to the chat window and complete an evaluation if possible. And I'll wrap it up with that if there are no questions. So thanks, Phil.